So one of the big deals here in IT is documentation. Never enough of it, and it's so incredibly important to getting our job done so we don't spend time looking for passwords or forgetting to document passwords and changes. So what I'm going to give you insight here is kind of how we do things, and we're very strict on security. So all this is internal and not public. You have to have a VPN and several other specialized two-factor authentication to get into this, but this is our Wiki system. And it is just a basic run-of-the-mill, but locked down very much Wedia Mickey. So this is internal to us, and this is how we manage all of our documentation. So you can look and see that we actively use this one, and there's plenty of recent changes in here. I have to blur all this out because, well, I can't show you some of the client details. Good news is, being that it's a wiki, it allows us to do things such as search for things inside the wiki. It allows us to find specific client details, and it definitely is. It's really slick. Now, the wiki will also do contextual searching, so it's kind of nice. It both serves as a way from our point of sale system, and I can show you real quickly how that links here. So for any client that we have with our point of sale, we have a link here that actually takes you directly to their wiki page that's related. This is another feature that we don't really use anymore, that we can manage some of the client files, but we've since migrated everything into the wiki, and we've modified the wiki to allow file types such as XML and zip documents, so we actually contain each of the client's backup files of things like firewall configs, router configurations inside of there as well. So from our point of sale, we can look at client, click, and it creates it over there. And the way a wiki works is if something's not there, it gives you the option to create it, and then it allows us to start creating documentation for any client on the fly as needed as we sign up for new clients. So instead of showing you this wiki where I have to blur everything out, I'm going to show you our test wiki. So our test wiki is our Wiki. I made a Wiki logo, and it's, well, I found a Wiki logo. I didn't make it. I just put it in here. And this allows us to do some testing when we want to play with different structures or config things that we don't want to do in a live environment, like when we're making a new template. We just play around in here, and we have this. It's still password protected. We're going to pull up, and as you can see when we search, and I called this some random company, and it kind of gives you an idea of how we do our documentation. So if there's discussion, we often use that for quotes and things like that. We'll list a quote and we'll create a discussion page for this. And it sometimes is the details behind the quote that may not be in the quote itself, like exactly like, okay, we're going to have this person do this and this person do that. More detail than the client would need on a quote to get something done. So it becomes a discussion and a historical archive for what built maybe a large project quote for all the individual things. The page itself, we actually have them all start with closed and expanded. So we create these little templates, and they're not hard to do. So let's say we're going to look at like the hosting, and all this is information you can look at because none of it's real. You'll see when we put in here. So the site, username, password, like here's the cPanel login, and here's like a WordPress login for this, and that would be the username and password. For maybe some of the network equipment, we have the server device, let's say their firewall. That's Google's IP, in case you didn't know, before you try and log in, and that's OpenDNS. But this actually allows us to create documentation, what the firewalls are, create links to them if they're externally linkable, the password, username, and passwords that are in here. If they have a unified device, for example, we might save that in there. And the same with the servers. Same thing, it's a server device, LTS app, if it's our app server, 2012 server, password, whatever that password is for that domain. And we can break these out because we're creating these tables on the fly as needed. And then if there's a specific work instruction for a client, like special printer settings, and I can screenshot whatever those settings are, change settings, set this, make sure it prints, and then we can create this documentation for it. Now, it also has the option for, we put in like this one here for fixing Screen Connect session. We had a problem with Screen Connect, and I actually just copied this out of one of our special work instructions we have for ourselves, because we use this to document some of our own internal processes as well. Now let's get to editing. Now, if you kind of look at it, maybe if you're not used to Wiki markup language, it's a little bit daunting at first and go, wow, there's a lot in here. But one of the things we do is in a Wiki markup language, you can add headers to it. So instead of editing the entire document, I only want to edit one spot, let's say the hosting part, it cuts it down to only this. Now let's change a password, for example. So we're just going to add a 1 after this password, and we're going to go ahead and save the changes. Now, it's nice if I want to view the history and I want to know what was recently changed, because I know there was a change on there. I can just quickly do a comparison, and right there, oh, okay, this password was changed. I could roll it back if I wanted to. I could roll it forward. Now, the nice thing about the way MediWiki works is it's constantly logging everything. So we have full logging turned on, so I know which user did what's changed, and those users, I can go back and see like what they changed, when they changed it. If we needed a previous password, even from a long time ago, we have all the change records being saved. We have plenty of database space, so we take advantage of it. Let's pull up the some random company again. So it's really not that hard to use when you edit the page, and let's like a client specific work instruction, or you want to put a screenshot in there, and we're just going to add a graphic. You can simply grab the file, we want to upload it, select a file from the computer, a screenshot of something maybe I was working on. And here's my YouTube stuff. I'll go ahead and upload that real quick. Confirm it's my own work. Now the nice thing is it doesn't matter what you named it when the file is being uploaded. My YouTube stuff. And you can give a description of it. Now, like I said, we've modified this so it allows more than just files. And then we're going to go ahead and frameless insert. And we can preview it before it, and we can see that it's uploaded this little screenshot on there. And we'll save the changes. And now that's at the bottom. Not a big deal. We can click on it. You can upload a new version of this file. Now, this is actually really handy for doing the XML uploads of config files. So if we, whenever we update a firewall, let's say a pfSense firewall for a client, we will go through and upload a new version of their firewall, the XML file on there. So it allows us to keep all the file revisions up to date and everything in one really handy little place for this. So it's just really simple. That's one of the reasons we went with that. I know there's a lot of other ones out there that have all kinds of cool, fancy-dancy managements. I'm not a big fan of the ones that aren't self-hosted, though. I like to have all this data under my control where I know where it is. Maybe I'm a little bit tinfoil hat on this, but it is a big concern of mine that the entire system could be compromised for a third-party company. I know it's not likely, but it is scary. I know two-factor authentication's really good, but if they have an unencrypted copy of through an entire portal, if someone compromises their database for one reason or another, you suddenly have a really big problem. Keeping this locked down internally with no external web accessibility makes it really much more trustworthy, I should say, for us to do it. And it's not hard to manage and edit. Editing these, like I said, the Wiki markup language is really not that hard when you look at it. These are just in our table. So if we had another server we wanted to put in here, I could just go here, just copy, paste. VirtualBox server's going to put a 2 after it. And we'll change the IP address, whatever it would be. It's 133 for that one. Save changes. Now we've added VirtualBox Server 2. It really doesn't take long once you understand the structure to go through and edit these. It's not hard to load the wiki. It spins up on a really low-powered server. It doesn't take a lot of horsepower to run this. The database, even with all the client information we have, is not that substantial. I mean, it's a few hundred megabytes, but that's really manageable once we compress it down. The backups we actually are backing this up a couple times a day due to the volume of data we put inside of the wiki. And no one really wants to have to redo data. And if we change a bunch of passwords and information for a client, we got to make sure all that information gets backed up in the wiki here. Even though it does run on a RAID array, it is a redundant system. Things can happen. We are real strict about how we do the backups, and that's why we have them set to back up every few hours during our normal business hours. So I guess I'm going to give you an overview of how we handle documentation internally. A few people have asked. I've talked about this a couple times, when people have asked me questions, but I'm not really shown how we're doing it. So this is just kind of an idea of how the system works and what we're doing internally for this. We're always open to new ideas, and if you have a suggestion of a better way to do it, or you're like, Tom, this is crazy that you're doing it this way, let me know why. I'm always looking to improve. So once again, thank you for listening. If you like the content in here, like and subscribe, and enjoy the Wiki. Thanks.